Welcome to MMA Live for Lock right here at Awesemo.com. I am Jason Floyd, and maybe you're just like me right now. You're trying to update your CSVs because you got to get all that Drakkar Klose and Luis Pena out of your lineup as the fight is off the fight card due to one of Drakkar Klose's cornermen testing positive for COVID-19. The matchup is scheduled to take place later on. So, Pete, I guess first off, everyone, appreciate you coming in here on a Saturday afternoon. Be sure to smash that like button right here on YouTube. And if you are not subscribed to Awesemo, you got to hit that subscribe and that notification bell so you know when a new show is live here on the channel. But, Pete, let's just kind of start off there. Luis Pena was a guy that I actually found myself having a lot of just as a value play. So how's this kind of affecting your strategy right now?
What is up, everybody? It is fight day, and I am pumped for this. Obviously, unfortunate news with the Luis Pena being scratched from the card. I think that, I don't know if it was going to be a really common underdog of picking Luis Pena to be a part of your lineups, but I did find myself kind of touching that fight just a little bit. But, what a disaster at weigh-ins, right? We can also talk about that. Like, just in general, we lost that Rafael Alves, the Pat Sabatini fight. Jared Gordon comes in, misses weight. Draco Rodriguez misses weight. Caitlyn Vera misses weight. It was just a nightmare. And now that we're scratched with another fight, I think that the value play that everybody's going to turn to is going to hope that Darrick Minner can get it done. I think that was kind of the case beforehand. But if you were looking at Luis Pena, Darrick Minner kind of looks nice, 92% finish rate. When he wins quick. He has a ton of first-round victories. For me, personally, I'm not picking Minner to win the fight, so I'm like light on exposure. I'm also not playing heavily today. So, there's so many different ways that these fights can go, and I feel like there are just so many different options. And, we had 15, and now we're down to, 13, Jason? So I think that it's going to be an interesting optimal lineup, but make sure you get Drakkar Klose and Luis Pena out of your lineups.
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned about Rosa and Minner, I think that's one of the fights on this card that I think you have to have a good amount of exposure on. In terms of GPP, I think that's totally a GPP fight. The other fight, speaking of the weigh-ins, good little stare down between your boy Jared Gordon and Danny Chavez. That might be another fight we got to look at and say, you know what, that might be something we have to have in our GPPs as well.
Yeah, so that fight is probably going to be a part of the optimal. I think it's a very interesting fight to target. I'm having exposure to both. I do have to worry, and I think we always have to worry about a fighter when they miss weight. So, naturally, if a guy is heavier, they're going to have an advantage in the wrestling department. That's just a given. But if they had a bad weight cut or a botched weight cut, how does their cardio last throughout the course of the fight? Are they zapped? Are they fatigued? We will have to see. I thought that Gordon looked fine. It kind of looked like he just kind of called it quits a little early on the weight cut and said, you know what, I'm not going to kill myself. I want to be fresh for the fight. But I will tell you that Danny Chavez seemed to be a little pissed off and definitely wants to make a statement, especially against a guy that missed weight. And I'll tell you, when one of my opponents missed weight one time, it really lit a fire, and I went out there and wanted to make a statement. So you definitely have to relate to that.
Yeah, it's it's one of those fights that I guess, I mean, look, and you talked about Jared's your guy, but you definitely have question marks in terms of that chin. If this becomes a firefight, you got to, you heard Chavez. If you actually listen to the audio, basically Chavez is like, nah, man, you're not going to make this takedown city. You're going to have to stand and bang with me. If this is a stand and bang type, fight, I don't know how much I really like Jared Gordon in the spot.
I'd have to agree. I would say, that Gordon's advantages in this fight are through the wrestling and the grappling transition. So, trying to hope that he can replicate what he did in his previous performance against Chris Fishgold is kind of the path to victory for him. I think on the feet, he will be at a speed disadvantage against Danny Chavez. I don't think that he really can match the power of Danny Chavez. It's more of just aggression. And what Jared Gordon does a lot is he likes to push his opponents backwards and kind of get in their face and crowd their space. Now, you do have to worry about Danny Chavez's leg kick, ultimately going upstairs, has some amazing popness punches. But if you look at his career in totality, I'm sitting here and I'm like, how does this guy only have a 27% finish rate out of his 11 victories? It kind of blows my mind. And we have seen some fighters kind of grow into their power. Tanner Bozer's a guy that started to find finishes late in his career. I will say that I'm targeting that fight a decent amount. Obviously, I'm rooting for my guy. I hope that he comes through and pulls it off. But, it's an interesting fight, and I will have plenty of it.
Let me move on to, and this is a question that me and you were talking about earlier today, is which fighter on DraftKings 7,500 and below do you trust?
Yeah, I mean, it's none of them, right? I mean, trust, I don't trust many people in this world, never mind fighters below 7,500, let's be real. But if I am looking at this, right, if I want to kind of bring in my weigh-in analysis to the fights on fight day, I do think that you could kind of take some bits and pieces. Now, Derek Lewis, typical Derek Lewis. I'm going to go one by one just of like quick highlights. Yana Kuniskaya, I thought looked pretty strong on the scale. You also can say that her opponent, Caitlyn, Vera, missed weight. And Yana Kuniskaya seemed to be, pretty amped and got in the face of Caitlyn Vera. Granted, I don't think that it's a good stylistic matchup for Yana Kuniskaya. But from what I did see on the scale, I like her a little bit more than I did. I still think that Vieira is just a better overall fighter. If I'm looking of who else in that range under 7,500, Andrei Arlovsky, not really for me. If he does get a win, it's probably a low score. We got no Luis Pena. I think, Chaz Skelly's going to be a guy for GPPs that a lot of people are going to look to in case that, in a scramble on the mat, he can snatch up the neck of Jamal Emmers. I mean, Chaz Skelly's a horrible striker, and I can say that with confidence. But on the mat, he's very skilled and is so tricky and can definitely wrap up your neck. 72% finish rate out of 18 victories, 7-3 in the octagon, whereas Jamal Emmers is 1-1. You could do worse than Chaz Skelly, but hear me out, and you may completely disagree with me. I think that Amin Zahabi is interesting just because there are so many unknowns surrounding him. He's fighting a guy who's debuting, okay, looking to make his debut here. Draco Rodriguez missed weight. He didn't really look too confident on the scale. It almost looked like he was a little nervous. In addition to that, he missed weight, so maybe something's wrong. Maybe he's hiding an injury. Maybe Amin Zahabi is just going completely overlooked. And I understand that Zahabi, for the most part, has been just hype and no results. I mean, we can really say that. 1-2 in the UFC, 7-2 overall, questionable strength of schedule. But with all those question marks, I think that Amin Zahabi is kind of that guy, that 7,500 guy that, I don't mind taking a shot on. He's surrounded by amazing talent. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Maybe he goes after a leg lock, tries to catch his opponent off guard, and just goes out there and puts together an unlikely win here.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Zahabi, which I'm not. I mean, look, do I have shares of him? Yes, I do. Do I feel great about it? No, I don't. Now, if you look at his one win in the UFC, that was in his debut. It was a decision win against Reginaldo Vieira. In that fight, he had 1 knockdown, 44 significant strikes, 45 total strikes, 0 takedowns, but did have 11 takedown defenses. Obviously, that becomes critical over on the FanDuel side of the equation. I found myself really looking at Yana Kuniskaya. When you look at the volume, if she can put up that kind of volume, even if the decision doesn't go her way, especially in a cash game scenario, I think there's some value there in terms of Yana Kuniskaya. But yeah, there's not a ton underneath 7,500 that really does stick out to you. Do want to get some questions that we had over in Slack. I want to start off with questions that we had earlier in the day. Comment asking, who are the fights to fade? I'm not fading any fight, but I'll tell you the fights that I don't really love rostering. I don't really love rostering the first fight of the night, Spivak and Vandera, even though I do have a decent amount of Sergey Spivak there. I don't really love Zahabi Rodriguez as a GPP fight. Dobbs O'Neal, one of them might be optimal, but you don't feel good about it. I mean, that to me, I mean, it's low level MMA, UFC women's MMA in that one. Dobson can't stop a takedown. That's what O'Neal wants to do. O'Neal's stand-up game is awful. Outside of that, Those are only fights that really scare me.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a little light on the first fight of the night with Sergey Spivak against Jaron Vanderaa. I think that coming into it, you thought that Jaron Vanderaa was going to be a big guy, but it does look like Sergey Spivak matches up well in the size department, and I just think he's better everywhere. So I do think Spivak is a nice option. I'm just a little light on that. As far as fights that I'm really light on, I'm not fading much, but I'm a little light on the O'Neal-Dobson fight just because I don't want to deal with the headache. There's 15 fights. I mean, if that fight ends up being optimal, I'm okay with it. You just don't know what to expect there. And then the other fight that I will say, I mean, I was light on the close Pena fight, but that's obviously off the card. I'll probably say the co-main event with Caitlyn Vera and Yana Kuniskaya. I'm light on that because I do think that despite Caitlyn Vera missing weight, she's really, really strong. She has amazing judo takedowns, okay, awesome throws. Yana Kuniskaya in her previous win excelled in the clinch, and I don't really know if she wants to hang out in the clinch against Caitlyn Vera. I think she might get tossed to the mat and controlled. I don't hate her as a dog, but I'm very light on that fight.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of that. Other questions that we got in earlier today, the short notice fighters that I was asked about. I'm just trying to go down here. Short notice that jump out to me. I don't think, well, it was Luis Pena and Pat Sabatini, but they're both not fighting. I think that's the only ones that were quote unquote short notice fights.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, those were the two. The other one, it said, any new trends or confirmations we've seen with the new DraftKings scoring system. Before it was fade women fight. Now seems primarily strikers that can't get first round finish have pretty low ceilings.
Yeah, so a striking contest that doesn't really have the highest volume and doesn't have knockdowns or anything, it's kind of an underwhelming score. Control time is an additional bonus, but it's nothing that could really be a slate breaker. I think if you have a dominant wrestler who's going to get a ton of takedowns, going to have ground and pound, and then you add control time on top of it, I mean, it doesn't hurt. So a Curtis Blaydes in this situation, I think is a nice play. But, for, let's say a Caitlyn Vera, a low volume type of fighter that could wind up on top, or even a Casey O'Neill, right, could wind up on top, try to take their opponent down a couple times. I just don't know if it really is going to help them. And I feel like that they could be, with a slightly capped upside just based on, the new scoring system.
Another question in Slack I just got a little while ago. Favorite MVP on FanDuel besides Blaydes? I know my answer because I have this guy in a cash lineup.
Yeah, you're going to have to go.
Mine is Dawkins because look, the ownership is going to be crazy on Curtis Blaydes at MVP, no question about it. So my thought was, let me try. I still got Blaydes in my lineup, but I'm like, let me try to find someone else, and I went with Chris Dawkins because I think you got a very high probability that fight's going to end in the first or second round, particularly in the first round, and I think you could get a big score out of Chris Dawkins, and that's me more trying to play the ownership game more of this than thinking. I mean, look, I'm going to be nervous in that main event that Curtis Blaydes goes out there and if the fight somehow goes 25 minutes, I don't think it will. I'd be scared if Blaydes goes out there, gets 14 takedowns, and I don't have him in the MVP spot.
Yeah, I do like Curtis Blaydes quite a bit. I don't mind the Dawkins call. It's crazy that Charles Rose is $20 on FanDuel, right? That's he's hiked up there. But, that matchup is a little volatile with Derek Minner style. Aggressive round one, drops off a cliff after round one. So it might be warranted, and you're going up against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Charles Rosa, who has a black belt, under American Top Team, Ricardo Laborio. So I think that it is a good spot for Rosa. I just feel like the 8,800 on DraftKings is a little bit better than the $20 on FanDuel. It's almost relative. But I will say that the Phil Hawes Imavov coming in at 17.15 on FanDuel is an interesting spot. Not really a true spend up, but I do feel like that fight's going to bring it. You worry about Hawes round one, super dangerous, amazing wrestler, amazing striker, but Imavov is going to be there. He's going to be a dog. He's going to be able to chain together takedowns if he needs to. He can threaten the neck, which is, I think, is his path to victory, is countering Phil Hawes' takedown attempts with with a guillotine like he did in his previous fight. So I'm really interested on that fight on both platforms.
Of course, if you want to get access to the ownership projections, you got to sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass, which is $29.95. Gives you access to all of the DFS sports that we have over at Awesemo.com, whether it's MMA, NBA, NHL, you name it. We got it over at Awesemo.com. And if you're just interested in an MMA weekly pass, get that right now for $8.95. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. There you see it there on the screen there how you can sign up. You go right there, just Awesemo.com, or the left-hand side of Awesemo.com. You'll see Awesemo Plus. Click that, and then you can sign up for an Awesemo Plus weekly pass that not only gives you access to all our premium tools and content, also gives you access to our premium Slack account, which, of course, that's where I'm looking at first in terms of questions on this show. Let me go over to Sam over in Slack. He says, Wineland safe for value, especially on FanDuel. He's only been taken down by 2 fighters in 10 years.
It's a great point. I think that Wineland's in a sneaky spot. I have him in plenty of lineups. I'm not really sold on John Castaneda. I understand he's a younger guy, but I mean, Wineland's been at this for quite some time, and he's really seen it all in the octagon and even in the WEC cage. I mean, you're talking about facing championship talent throughout his entire career. Now this new kid who just fought Nathaniel Wood in his debut is going to come in here and take out Eddie Wineland like Sugar Sean O'Malley did. Yeah, I'm not really backing that. I mean, it could happen. I think it would be on the scorecards. I would be extremely surprised if Castaneda had a finish over Wineland via a submission or a TKO or something like that. That would blow my mind. But it is MMA. You are talking about Wineland looking to recover from a devastating knockout. So I like Wineland quite a bit. I think that he's a 7K guy that I prioritize to get in some of my lineups. I went a little tricky with my 7K options just to try to get different. And I think that some people could be overlooking Eddie Wineland.
I will mention one of the comments over in Slack was saying only have Dobson on FanDuel. Thoughts there? Look, if she wins, she should be an incredible play on FanDuel because you know this. Casey O'Neal's going to be looking for takedowns, and that obviously is part of the scoring system on FanDuel. So I understand why you would sit there and go, look, I'm only going to play her on FanDuel. She's $13. I think on FanDuel, she's a good play just because of what the upside could be there.
Yeah, I think if FanDuel makes sense. It's just, like I said, a fight that I don't want to target. But if you want to get different and you're talking about those takedowns defended, Dobson definitely has to be somebody on FanDuel that you look at. Jason, we got 450 people in our chat right now tuning into our show. We appreciate you guys a lot. Drop your questions in there. If you could do us a favor, just hit that like button. Happy that you guys appreciate these free videos.
Here is the problem with Shayna Dobson, though. And you know the stat.
Everything.
Not everything. Come on. Look, trains with a great team out there in Colorado. Yes. Trains around a ton of high-level female mixed martial artists. But the problem is she has been attempted to take down 8 times in the UFC. She's been taken down all 8 times.
Yeah, man. I mean, gust of wind, she might get taken down. But I will say that if a team can help you with your takedown defense, Team Elevation is it. Team Elevation is a great team that has really molded some good fighters lately. You're starting to see it. I mean, Curtis Blaydes is obviously like the guy that everybody's going to point to, but everybody in that area has decent wrestling, and I think that it's a good camp for her to, try to patch some holes. I do think that Dobson coming from a good camp and having some UFC experience is something to talk about here. I mean, you do have a debuting fighter. I know it's the new shiny toy on the block, and picking Dobson to be a part of your lineups is definitely not like a nice thing to feel good about. But, in one lineup, why not?
No, look, you're not going to feel good about it, but I can, if she can stop the takedown, I definitely see the path to victory for her over there. Got a question about Super Draft favorite captain over there. In terms of captain, just kind of looking at it, even look, Blaydes has a chance to break the slate. He's 1.5 multiplier as captain. I would look down. I think you look at someone like a Chris Dawkins at 1.8, maybe a Nate Landwehr at 1.95 to really try to play that ownership game a little bit. If you want to go even farther than that, maybe it's an Eddie Wineland at 2.05. But I would say my favorite outside of Blaydes would be Chris Dawkins.
What's Charles Rose at?
He is 1.75.
I kind of like it. I kind of like it. I mean, it's not bad. I don't really play on that platform. I think it's an interesting way to get different and to try to, pick some awesome lineups. I do think that Curtis Blaydes is probably going to be a must-have over there, though.
Yeah, I don't tend to play a lot over there. Joe, appreciate you in the super chat. He says, who are your locks of the night? I'm going with two of my underdogs. Both could be sub wins and potentially early. Olenek and Skelly. Look, if Olenek and Skelly are winning, that's likely the route that's how they're going to win.
Yeah, Joe's a madman. Appreciate you, Joe. If I was going to say locks, and I don't really say that word too often, I would feel really confident that Curtis Blaydes goes out there and takes down Derek Lewis, who has horrible wrestling. And, I think the other person that I would say in that L word category would be Tom Aspinall. I hear some people that are a little nervous about Tom Aspinall. Is he an overblown prospect? Does he not score well? Well, as far as getting a W, I think that he's going to do it. I think that, Arlovsky's surprising wins kind of stops here. I think that if you look at the weigh-in, Arlovsky, is usually a big guy, but against Tom Aspinall looked like he was really, really big. And I also know that he has amazing combinations. He's a younger guy, he's fresher. I think that he can do enough to get a W. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a knockout here.
By the way, someone was asking if there is a change in lock. I have not seen anything at this time, but if I do see it, I will. I don't think so. I will bring that up to you. Let's start getting into some of the questions we're getting over on YouTube in terms of this. A lot of questions about Pena. Aspinall easily KOs Andre Arlovsky and scores like 100 to 105 points. Now, look, I think that, the question would be is, like we talked about this on Thursday, of, could one of these heavyweight fights end in under 60 seconds and then you get that 25 bonus points?
Yeah, I think that it would definitely be Chris Daukaus or Tom Aspinall that can get you that quick bonus. Alexei Olenek could too, right? He needs to charge forward and take Chris Daukaus down to the mat and try to work a quick sub. And I wonder if people are kind of overvaluing Daukaus's like recent knockout stretch. And I just wonder if that fight kind of gets to be like a later finish, or maybe even goes the distance with some back and forth positions for each guy. I will say that Tom Aspinall probably has the best shot at getting a knockout victory on this card. So I like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of that. Just getting the announcement from the UFC here. The start time will still be 5 p.m. Eastern time, by the way. So there gives you your answer on that. That's the official release I just got from the UFC. Warren asked FanDuel Cash, who do we prefer, Emmers or Daukaus? Both are $20.
Well, they're both probably going to have to defend some takedowns. Emmers sits at 20. They're both 20. Probably say Daukaus. I do really like Jamal Emmers here. I think that he has the better striking than Chaz Skelly. I just do wonder if he leaves his neck out there at any point. I'll say Daukaus because he's at a heavier weight class and has shown some great knockout power.
Another FanDuel question coming in over on Slack from Boss. He says, Minner or Olenek FanDuel GPP?
I'd say Olenek, honestly, for me.
I would say Olenek too, just because, look, if Bryce Mitchell could not get Charles Rosa to tap on how many twister attempts?
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to put Charles Rosa in a position where he taps? That to me is kind of the concern I have with that one.
Yeah, so like Charles Rosa, and he could easily get controlled by Derek Minner. Like we saw what Bryce Mitchell did. Like he took Charles Rosa down, and I understand that a lot of people thought that Charles Rosa didn't really do anything off of his back, and that he doesn't have the best takedown defense. I would agree with that. He doesn't have the best takedown defense. He does welcome the fight when he's on his back, but from his back, if you go back to his regional tape, he throws up arm bars, triangles, gets to a front headlock position a lot, goes for Darce chokes, even a Peruvian necktie. Like he has a variety of submissions in a variety of ways to get it done. Not to mention he does have the better striking in this spot. you do have Derek Minner working with James Krause. You have to always take that into consideration because he's a phenomenal coach. And if he can kind of calm down the round one beast and make him a 3-round fighter, you do wonder. But I just feel like it's in Minner's DNA to go out there and go for the kill right off the bat. I mean, in his 11 defeats, I think he has something like 8 submission defeats or something like that and 1 TKO. So like when he loses, he gets finished. I like Rosa to get it done here. So in that case, I would say that I prefer Alexei Olenek over Derek Minner.
Yeah. Another one, Clement saying, who is going to take down City besides the main event?
We don't have like any really amazing wrestlers on this card. I think that Emmers can take Chaz Skelly down a lot. I just don't think that he should. Dobson's probably going to take down City. Like, she's probably going to get ragdolled. Outside of that, you would say a guy that probably has some of the best wrestling on this card would be Jared Gordon. And there are some unknowns around Danny Chavez. Obviously, he looked amazing against TJ Brown, was able to defend some takedowns. And I was pretty high on TJ Brown, thinking that, man, the kid's good. Like, he's aggressive, puts combinations together, has excellent wrestling. And Danny Chavez kind of shut that whole thing down with a great calf kick, excellent takedown defense. So, yeah, I think the easy answer is to say that, Derek Lewis is getting taken down to take down City, and then Shauna Dobson too.
Miles says, does Blaydes score highest on the card regardless of whether it's a quick fight or a long fight?
I was thinking about that. Like, can you fade the main event because of the salaries? And, I did fade the main event in a few of my lineups just because that extra salary I was able to put it in different spots. And I did find some fighters that I think that could get close to the score of Curtis Blaydes, because like, you have to take the physicality of Derek Lewis into consideration. I understand he has no wrestling, but he's a strong guy. So I feel like Volkov did elevate Blaydes' work rate and did elevate the amount of takedowns that were landed because he kept getting back to his feet. What happens if Derek Lewis can't really get back to his feet? Then it's a lot of control time, which doesn't really score as well as takedowns.
Yeah, it's quite. I think if you are Derek Lewis, I think part of the key has got to be keeping your heels of your feet in front of that black line that we see in the octagon. I think if he gets back there and Curtis Blaydes can make this a fight against a fence, I think that's going to put Derek Lewis in a lot of trouble. I think if you're Derek Lewis, you just got to let those hands go. You got to let those hands go quickly. We've seen Blaydes get knocked out quickly by Francis Ngannou. So I think that's got to be part. If I'm in the Derek Lewis camp, that's my thing to Derek. Like, man, let them bungalows go quick.
Yeah, exactly. Like how Derek Lewis came out against Alexei Olenek at times. Like, he needs to do that right off the bat, because I think that's his shot, is to catch somebody early before they start to find the rhythm. I will say that we are at the apex, so obviously the cage is smaller, which does favor wrestlers. And not to mention, we're talking about heavyweights that take up more space in that cage. So now you're really talking about, Derek Lewis kind of having to fight in a corner.
Next up, over in Slack, who scores the most in a loss at 7.6K and down on DraftKings?
Most in a loss, 7.6. Well, it's not Lewis, most likely. Not Kuniskaya. 7.6. Let me look. Probably Sahabi, honestly. Like, I think that a lot of people are expecting him to get starched, and he could. Draco Rodriguez looks like a good prospect, but like, there are some unknowns around that. So I will say that Sahabi's a unique way to get different, and I feel like it's an ugly pick that a lot of people don't want to touch.
This is a super draft question over in Slack. Say Aspinall 1.1 times or O'Neal 1.25. Don't put stress on your life. Just take Aspinall.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, just don't chase that extra a little bit more of a multiplier for a fight that, I mean, literally, if you told me O'Neal and Dobson fight 10 times, does one fighter win more than 5 times?
They fight 10 times and I watch 0 times. That's what happens. So I'm not interested in the fight. It's going to happen. If you're playing that fight and you're wagering money on it, good luck. It's a lot of volatility there. I try to have some smart decisions, and I think avoiding that fight is kind of just, in the best interest for your health.
Oh, man, if that fight ends up being optimal, you are going to hear about it today.
Well, I mean, it's probably going to be optimal because they're both so low level, but what do you know what I mean? I don't know.
That's what makes it tough. That's what makes it tough. Emmers or Blaydes? I mean, look, Almond Joy asked that question. I mean, I guess the question would be is if you're taking Emmers, who does that allow you to get to?
So we have Emmers and Rose sitting at the same salary on DraftKings, and I thought that was interesting. How many people, right, when they're filling out their lineups, are left with that Rosa option with 8,800 left, or that Emmers option of 8,800? I think that you will see a lot of people go to Rosa because people are starting to get sharp. Excuse me, and that people are starting to realize that after round one, Minner kind of falls off a cliff. So I think that Emmers could be a guy lost in the shuffle, forgotten, not an easy matchup, but it's a way to get unique. I think that Emmers is an interesting GPP target. As far as betting, I was looking at some crazy lines and I was wondering what's the inside the distance on Emmers? And I thought that was interesting. Obviously, Chess Kelly's a dog and he brings it, and Emmers only has a 56% finish rate, but it's something to look at.
Yeah. Of course, this is the MMA Live for Lock show right here at Awesemo.com, and we are trying to get to 30,000 followers on Twitter, which is at Awesemo_com. So we got a giveaway going on for our followers over there, so hit that follow right now if you're not doing that, and we'll be giving away 30 free weekly passes. That is Awesemo_com. Also, be sure to follow our MMA Twitter account, which is at Awesemo MMA. This was another one, Blaydes or Emmers FanDuel Cash. I still say it's Blaydes.
Yeah, it's Blaydes. I mean, the 5 rounds, you have a ton of potential to rack up points. I do think that Curtis Blaydes could get it done inside the distance. I mean, you talk about Derek Lewis. Doesn't have the best submission game. I know that Curtis Blaydes doesn't either, but I bet you that Derek Lewis, when he's fatigued, will tap to something. I mean, we were worried about him tapping to that scarf hold that Alexei Olenek put him in, and it did look tight and it did look close. Derek Lewis, props to him. He came back from that and then had an amazing second-round knockout. But, in that situation, I think you have to talk about Blaydes over Emmers. Just safe.
Kilo Whiskey wondering what is the upset of the night and which fight/fighter are we not talking about?
Well, I don't know what the odds are right now, but it was a slight upset. Well, I think Nate Landwehr's a guy we haven't talked about. That 8,100 price range, I think, is interesting. I really do like him. I think that he's going to bring it to Julian Rose. Julian Rose has kind of bounced in and out of the promotion. Had some shots on you think about the Ultimate Fighter contenders. He's had some in and out moments with the UFC. Ultimately had, pulled the upset over Sean Woodson. Looked great in doing so. Sean Woodson ultimately fatigued, and kind of got caught in a submission, which I think a guy like Nate Landwehr, who could push a high pace for a long, sustained, duration of the fight, I think that it's going to be tough to put him away. Obviously, Arosa can stay on his bike and pick him apart from the outside, but I think that Nate Landwehr just needs to land one shot or an accumulation of a ton of shots over time, and I think he's in a good spot here. Fought some legitimate competition outside the UFC. I like Landwehr at 8,100. I think I might have something like over 50% exposure to him. I really like him here.
I think that's a fight when you talk about you need to have a ton of exposure on that fight. Yeah. I think, just because I think the likelihood is that someone will win by stoppage in that fight. You look at the betting odds, Nate Landwehr -120, +110 for Arosa. I would be looking at the prop bets on either one of them wins by TKO, KO, Arosa, +495, Nate Landwehr +230. I think if you want to play Nate Landwehr, I think that's the prop you take is the Nate Landwehr wins by TKO, KO prop there. And probably the safe bet of the night, even though you're going to have to pay a little bit up. Fight goes decision. Vera, Kuniskaya, -250.
Yeah, I mean, Vieira, 55% finish rate. Kuniskaya, 62% finish rate. They're both talented. And when a lot of people are talented, or you have two fighters that are talented, finishes are hard to come by. That's why like finishes are a part of highlights, and like people love to see finishes because it's usually on the low end. If you have an elite fighter that can take out and finish top end talent, it's something that a lot of people like to flock to. But as far as Vera and Kuniskaya, I foresee that going the distance.
Who has the highest bust potential? Dawkins, Aspinall, Spivak?
I would say it's Dawkins. And the reason I'll say it's Dawkins, right? 2-0 in the UFC. He's fought two guys that kind of they're super low level, right? You have Parker Porter, who he debuted against, and then you have Rodrigo Nascimento, who he took out quickly inside of round 1, inside the first minute. So like we haven't seen Dawkins stretched out over the course of the fight. How's his true cardio at top level UFC talent? And I know that Alexei Oleinik is 43 years old, right? We can't ignore that. He's 43. He has nearly 75 fights, 59 victories, 14 defeats inside the UFC's 8-5. It's just a lot to ask for a guy who's 2-0, relatively green in the UFC, UFC terms. I just think like it's a tough fight, and a spectacular performance over Alexei Oleinik could be like overblown. I think he can win on the scorecards. Definitely has the speed advantage. Definitely has the volume advantage. Needs to avoid getting put on the mat, and needs to avoid the clinch against the powerful and strong Alexei Oleinik. So I foresee Dawkins of those options being the guy that could bust because it's just so early in his UFC career. Obviously, I still favor him to win. I have several lineups with him in it, but I'm a little light on that fight more than I expected.
This is a DraftKings GPP question. Derek Minner, Jared Vandara, or Ayman Zahabi?
Zahabi for me, man. Now, let me explain that, right? Zahabi's kind of got this X factor about him, could go out there and get knocked out so quick. And I feel like a lot of people don't feel comfortable about it because if you look at his career, he's been absent from the cage. He's kind of just overblown because of, his last name, Faraz Zahabi, his brother. You have Derek Minner, who has, I don't know how many first-round submissions, something like 20 or something like that. 25-11, 92% finish rate. The obvious, easy answer for people to kind of put in their GPP lineups with the highest upside is definitely Minner, right? Highest upside of those options. Jared Vandera is a guy that, can compete against Sergey Spivak and has excellent top control. And, ground and pound, whenever you have a big heavyweight on top of you, it's a hard place to be, and nobody wants to be there. And obviously, if he can rain down punches on Sergey Spivak, he can either win on the scorecards or sneak out a TKO over him. But on some regional footage that I saw, I did see Jared Vandera get controlled in a clinch. And, I kind of think that Vandera is like a 3-star in every category, whereas Spivak's like 4 stars, just a little bit better everywhere and can avoid getting put in bad positions.
Can you fade Curtis Blaydes on a FanDuel GPP?
I think so, right? I mean, like that's kind of your bread and butter over there. $23.
It's a roster construction question to me.
Yeah,
I think the question is going to be and let's just say it's a single entry, just one lineup. I think the question is you need to start your lineup with Curtis Blaydes, and you got to figure out what you can put in there and what you're comfortable with. You're going to have to go to that bottom. You're going to be having to look in at someone like a Kuniskaya, a Derek Minner, an Alexei Oleinik, an Andrei Arlovsky, a Chaz Skelly, or Jared Vandera to really make that lineup work. I think that not having Blaydes, I think will help you in terms of your roster construction over there. One of the questions we got over on YouTube was about is leaving $500 on the table too much? I say no, because I think what it does, it helps separate your lineup from everybody else, because everyone else is spending. Yeah, it makes yourself unique.
Yeah, absolutely. It helps you get different. Now, I think a common build, right? I don't think that we're going to see a lot of heavy favorites in the same lineup, right? Like 2 or 3 9,000 options together, I don't think is going to be too common. Reason being is you actually have some really cheap options. Like you have that 8,200, 8,000 fight that people naturally flock to. Now you have this nice little 8,100 fight between Landwehr and Arosa. So that's kind of like your bargain bin where people will be having probably 2 of them in their lineup. So that is like a common build. So I think like a balanced build will make a lot of sense if you're able to leave money on the table in a week like this when we have so many fights, that is definitely how you could have a lineup that you can take down the tournament with.
Trey saying top 3 favorites on DraftKings and favorite DraftKings captain. I do have a captain lineup tonight on DK. I went with Dawkins to save a little bit of salary. I think he was 12,000, where Curtis Blaydes was 15,000.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't even looked at that yet. I will once we log off the show, and I'll play with that for a little bit. I have not had success in that type of format, to be honest. Like, I have not really had too much success. I find it difficult. Obviously, you have fighters that are priced up, and you get a small portion of the fight card. But I'm looking forward to trying it out.
I got a question about an underdog we like with what the odds are out there on that. Obviously you mentioned about Zahabi, who's plus 167. I think if you're going to look other way, Shayna Dobson plus 142. The key obviously with that one, she's got to keep the fight on the feet. If she gets taken down, she'll lose. Eddie Wineland plus 107, yep. I think is another one. But there's not a 2-to-1 betting underdog that you really look at and say, okay, that I really like that one.
No, not at all. Like, there's nobody sitting there. The main event, you have Lewis with the puncher's chance to get a victory over Curtis Blaydes, and definitely can happen. But there are other weeks where we have one of the opponents in the main event or the co-main event that has a true legitimate shot, and you're talking about a guy that can match in different areas. You think about the Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, or any of these previous cards we've had. We've had underdogs in the big spotlight in better positions. That's why I think the guy like a Derek Minner is going to be so chalky and so popular. Definitely has high upside, but he's going to be pretty chalky.
Appreciate everyone that's joining us here on MMA Live Before Lock. Do us a favor, show your support for the show. Hit that thumbs up button right here on YouTube. And if you are not subscribed also, you got to hit that subscribe so you know so you can watch all the shows that we have and get notified when we have a new show live here on the channel. Next up, this is a DraftKings GPP question. Lewis and Spivak or Chavez and Zahabi?
I would go Chavez and Zahabi, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Kuniskaya or Vandera?
Gosh. I don't really see the upside. I think that Vandera has higher upside because it's heavyweight MMA. A big shot can land. A finish can happen. But I do think that Kuniskaya, what I saw at the weigh-in, I did like her a little bit more. So I will say Kuniskaya. I don't like either fighter, to be honest.
Yeah. We got this guy Tyler over in Slack. I don't know if you know him. Long time listener, first time caller. I feel like I'm back in my radio days doing talk shows. Best prop on the card, Tyler. I got one for you. Give me Charles Rosa inside the distance, which is minus 105. If you really want to go crazy, TKO KO plus 700.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was kind of looking at that TKO KO. I do think that live betting that fight, you can have an advantage because Derek Minner could come out there and look like a world beater in round 1. And then you have, Charles Rosa keeping it on the feet or starting to pick apart the slow Minner. I think that a submission could happen or a TKO could happen. So I don't mind that at all. I really like Nate Landwehr via KO, TKO. I think that's something that's pretty interesting coming in. I think it was like, what'd you say? It was plus 200 or something. I wrote about it in my article. I forget what the odds are, but I do like it quite a bit.
Of course, if you ever do miss any of our shows, they are part of the Awesemo Podcast Network with the exception of Live Before Lock shows. Get those podcasts over at awesemo.com/podcast. Gives you all the links for where you can listen to the shows. And, of course, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on one of our podcasts for your chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Pita, we got about 15 minutes here left before lock, so we'll try to get some rapid fire ones in here. Try to get everyone's questions in here before the show does come to an end. Skelly or Minner single entry? Doesn't say which platform.
Skelly.
All righty. Dobson or Wineland?
Wineland.
Is taking Emmers at 8,800 worth the savings instead of Aspinall at 9,200?
No.
Let's see here. 3 fights you are not putting in your lineups.
Dobson O'Neal, Vera Kuniskaya, not really on that one. And I'm light on the first fight of the night, Spivak Mandero.
Thoughts on Gordon versus Chavez since Gordon missed weight?
Volatility. We talked about it. Gordon has a clear path to victory via wrestling. Chavez has the striking advantage. Obviously, you have to worry about, Gordon missing weight, how he is, and if he can sustain his energy over 15 minutes.
Mr. Donk says, Jason says he's off Vandera Spivak for GP. Meanwhile, Vandera is the highest owned dog. Oh boy, I don't want to tinker. Look, this is my thing about the first fight. I think that, look, I don't mind going the Spivak route because I think you can get a little bit of the ownership game, because I think when it comes to the heavyweight fights, everyone's going to be looking at the main event and Dawkins in the Olynyk fight. So I think you might be able to find a little bit of value there. I think I've probably got about 20% shares in terms of that fight. I think, as I said, I've got shares all over the place. But it's a fight that I think most likely Spivak should ultimately go out there and get the win. T-Burr says, how do I get different? Very good question.
Get different, leave salary on the table. Take an underdog nobody's talking about. I mean, I don't really see too many people talking about Sahabi. I think that he's interesting. He's different, doesn't have the best, look on the box score. So it's somebody to kind of consider and avoid chalky plays that have low potential.
Olynyk and O'Neal. Oh, I know you love that one.
Oh.
or Rodriguez and Scully on DraftKings.
I mean, I don't want to. Oh God, are those the two worst combinations in the history? Oh my God, you have.
I think our commenters are just trolling you at this point.
I mean, I'm not hating on it because obviously, you have to think about lineups that I probably wouldn't do, because always a unique lineup kind of sneaks through the cracks of what could actually win. I don't really want to put a lot of weight in the debuting fighter O'Neal, despite how horrible Dobson has been.
If you don't think the main event is going to the championship round, is it crazy to fade Blaydes?
No, it's not crazy. I did it in a couple because I thought maybe a third round KO, TKO, or submission comes with low amount of takedowns, low amount of ground and pound, maybe a 98 or something for a 9,400 fighter. If a couple other fighters get me wins in the 100 range, I think that it's okay to fade it. It's going to be a sweat regardless, but I think that Blaydes should come out on top.
Yeah, there was another question related to this saying, do you have to have the main event lineup or is there room to fade? I mean, look, if Derek Lewis wins on DraftKings, he will be optimal. No question.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, anytime you have a 6,000 fighter or even low 7K fighter, it's pretty hard for them not to do well in a win.
Next up is DK cash play outside of Blaydes. Aspinall, I think, would probably be my next go.
Aspinall is my guy. When you guys see Aspinall tonight, if he loses, I'll be crying in the corner. But of course, I really like Aspinall. I think that he's going to get it done. He's a superstar in the making.
Assuming Blaydes wins, will anyone outscore him straight up? Aspinall or Dawkins?
Yes. I think that Aspinall has the potential to exceed Blaydes' score.
Imavov or Wineland?
Imavov's a guy that we haven't really touched on, and I think that Imavov's in several of my lineups. I told you I like the Hawes Imavov fight. I think it's a very closely contested bout. Obviously, early Hawes is dangerous, but I think Imavov has tons of potential, submission potential. I like Imavov in that situation.
One of the questions was says, I just want to know why Blaydes is a 5-1 favorite. If you're playing Blaydes as a 5-1 favorite, you need to go to Odd Shopper. You need to shop the lines because there is much, much better lines out there for Curtis Blaydes. I'm seeing him as low as -385. So if you're trying to play him at 5-1, just telling you, shop those odds. Go to Odd Shopper. You can get some better odds there. But look, this is the reason he's a massive favorite. It's called Takedown City.
That's right, man. That's right. I'm going to brand it. Yeah, I'm excited for the fight. I can't wait.
Thomas goes, Casey is a lock first fight. She has been training in Vegas. Just look at odds. They know. Well, the problem is you can say that, but there's a saying, especially I come from the football world, Pete. We have this saying, film don't lie.
Yeah.
Film don't lie, bro.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, I would just rather put my money somewhere else. I think that O'Neal's probably going to win. I think Dobson is a legitimate dog to consider. But I just can see a low score from either one of them.
I guess the question got to be, now with 13 fights, will the optimal lineup have a losing fighter?
I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I think that you never know, right? I mean, like, if I was to look at the Landwehr-Rosa fight, that's one that could, in a loser situation, put up a good score based on tons of significant strikes. But with the new scoring system, you don't know.
AB, appreciate you in the super chat. He says, need a solid underdog, please.
I mean, it depends on underdog on DraftKings or just in general. I will say 8,100 slight underdog Landwehr, but if you're talking below 8,000, I think Eddie Wineland's nice. And I've talked about Zahabi as a sneaky play, definitely not a confident play.
Maya saying, I'm going to play my first cash game versus my husband today.
Oh, get him.
For a punt play, should I go at Vera, Arlovsky, or Kuniskaya?
Go with Kuniskaya, I guess, right? Like, mix it up.
I just had this random thought here. Mama Rogers needs to go head-to-head against Pete the Heat.
Someday she'll whoop me too, honestly. Mama's got some unique lineups that should not win. But I will say, right, in a cash game, punting super low allows you to spend up another spot. So taking a Kuniskaya in cash games makes a ton of sense because I do think it can be a competitive fight. And that remaining salary will allow you to get 3, maybe 4 studs in your lineup to really solidify getting a high score.
John, wishing you a belated happy birthday. Of course, Pete's birthday was on Thursday. Favorite FanDuel MVP? It's got to be Blaydes. Second, I would go Dawkins. Third, Aspinall.
Yeah, I'd go Blaydes, Aspinall. Not too high on Dawkins. Like, I think that he's good. $20 is nice. I think that Landwehr is interesting, 16.
One of the comments says Aspinall is a fade. Arlovsky perplexes these young fighters with his movement. Only guys who have finished in the past 5 years are Stipe, Overeem, Ngannou, and Rosenstruck.
Nope. I'm not buying it. I'm telling you.
Don't dare come in this chat and talk negative about Aspinall. Pete will come after your ass.
That's right. That is right. No, I mean, like, I think that Aspinall is just in a different category than those guys. He's so much bigger. He hits so much harder. I mean, the guy is a former sparring partner of Tyson Fury. If you don't know who Tyson Fury is, one of the best boxers in the world, and I feel really confident in Aspinall.
Thomas mentioned about Castaneda and the volume he could potentially bring. The one thing about it is you want to play the ownership game and Castaneda wins. I think there's a great chance Castaneda could be optimal just based on what we're seeing, what we're predicting for the ownership to be there. Thomas says you guys do a fight companion. We have talked about that. That's something we may do at some time down the road. Kind of hard to do that during football season with my schedule, but maybe now that we're outside of football season. Better $8 play in a FanDuel tournament, Vera or Kuniskaya?
Kuniskaya. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I'm hungry and I cannot wait. I don't know what you guys eat while you're watching the fights, what you're drinking during the fights, but I cannot wait to eat, kick back, watch some fights, and win some money.
Spivak or Chavez GPP?
Based on the price, you said Chavez. I didn't.
Yeah. Favorite FanDuel value? Is it Eddie Wineland?
Yeah, I mean, kind of 50. I think it's Landwehr, 16. I like him a little bit.
Best fighter 74 or under for DK Cash.
7,400 and under?
Yeah.
Well, I think that Chaz Skelly has a ton of submission wins. Obviously, he can wrap up the neck of Jamal Emmers, but I think it's unlikely. God, Kuniskaya, I guess. I mean, you're kind of backing me into a corner of pick between the horrible spots, but I guess I would say that. It's either that or Vandera.
Hawes or Imavov? This is saying for a DK showdown.
I've been flipping on that fight back and forth, man, but I do like Imavov.
Favorite contrarian FanDuel MVP?
Favorite contrarian FanDuel MVP?
How about Nate Landwehr?
Yeah, that or Chavez or Gordon.
Yeah. Skelly and Aspinall or Hawes and Gordon?
I don't really have a lot of faith in Skelly. My buddy Gordon can definitely get it done via wrestling, so I will go with Hawes and Gordon.
Yeah. Next up, some of these questions we've already kind of asked. Someone says, I'm all in on Spivak. Is that bad? I guess the question is, when you say all in, I mean, how many lineups are we talking about? Let's just say, if you're like 20 lineups and you got 100% Spivak, you're a little overexposed in my way.
I mean, I think he's good. He's a good fighter. I think he's better everywhere. I mean, he definitely could be the sneakiest of the 9,000 options. I mean, we haven't talked about Caitlyn Vera and her potential. I don't really feel – I think she's probably one of the worst 9,000 options out there. Spivak's probably a guy that could surprise.
Does Blaydes or Aspinall get more points with a win if the fight doesn't go the distance?
I mean, that would have to depend on the fights, right? Like, it's tough to predict that. Obviously, you would think that Blaydes does have more upside, but the quick win for Aspinall is always there.
Couple more minutes here left in the show. Try to get as much questions as I can. Chavez or Draco GPP?
Yeah, I don't like Draco today.
Minner or Skelly DraftKings?
Guess got to be Minner.
Olenek or Skelly?
Olenek.
Let's see here. Trying to get some questions that we have not already answered for. Gordon or Dobson on FanDuel? I think I know where you're going with that one.
Yeah, I'm going Gordon.
Skelly or Zahabi? I think I know where you're going with that one.
Zahabi.
Let's see here. Look, if Dawkins is going to lose, it's going to be by submission.
Yeah,
I mean, look, and if you're an Olenek backer, what you're fearing is this fight gets into the second or third round, because I don't think the gas tank will be there.
Agree. Don't stack a fight today. I don't think stacking a fight today is the way to do it.
Yeah, no, I don't. Look, the only fight, I'm not saying stack this fight. Let me just say, I'm not saying this. If I were going to stack a fight, if you told me it goes 15 minutes, I think there's one fight that potentially could. Well, the problem is on DK scoring system, unless there's knockdowns.
Landwehr or Rosa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be the only fight I think you could really consider.
Yeah.
Aspinall and Gordon or Dawkins and Imavov?
Give me Gordon. Imavov.
Yeah. Gordon or Chavez?
Both have paths to victory. I split my exposure for that fight. Obviously, I'm rooting for Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things of, I think if Jared Gordon goes a takedown route, is able to get the takedowns, I think you really like Jared Gordon in that spot. But the fight stays on the feet, to me, I like it up there. Let's get another question in here. Blaydes and Olenek or Dawkins and Imavov, and he says he has Aspinall at captain. This is the showdown. It
would be Dawkins and Imavov. I think that's nice.
Yeah, I agree with you there on that. But of course, we are just about now at lock. So good luck to everyone. As always, we love when you share us those winning lineups, whether it's on social media or in our premium Slack account. I'll be jumping on Slack a little after the main card starts, so I'll be in there chatting with you. Of course, you can always tweet at me at Jason_Floyd. Of course, Pete is at Pete the Heat MMA. Of course, Pete he'll be back in the lab coming up on basically tomorrow, as we got another fight card next weekend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. Appreciate you. If you can hit that like button before you head out. And, good luck, everybody. Have fun.
And don't forget, coming up at 6 p.m. each time, so 1 hour from now will be NBA Deeper Dive, as he'll get you ready for tonight's NBA action. So that's going to do it for MMA Live Before Luck. Good luck to everyone, and let's have some great night of fights.